What's up, guys? We're back, another video. Today we are going to be assembling our long block, our engine, with all of our new accessories and getting this thing nice and pretty and ready to go into the car behind me right here. So I'll show you what we're working with. So we've got our beautiful long block here that is prepped and ready to go. I've got a bunch of components that were refreshed and painted. And I've got literally everything under the sun new for this. I've got an intake manifold I've still got to refresh before that can go on, or not refresh, but clean up. I've got a throttle body that is over here that is disgusting. That still needs to be cleaned. That's and painted. That's one I haven't done yet. I don't know what color I want to do yet, so that's why I haven't done it. And over here in the graveyard of 5-cylinder parts, I've got my newly refreshed OEM stock just exhaust manifold. So got that all painted out with the high temp paint, and that's ready to go. My alternator is quite new, so I'm just going to clean that up, and then I just have the oil cooler left to clean and the oil filter housing. So let's start building. So we're going to go through and we're going to grab a bunch of the components that we need. Got a clutch sleeve, that's kind of for this video. Got a water pump. I've got a thermostat housing or water pump housing, the passenger driver's side one. I've got my oil filter housing and my oil cooler housing gaskets, so we'll toss those over there. Got a new dipstick tube with the hardware. I've got dry belt tensioner. I've got a valve cover gasket, but I also have a brand new valve cover over there, so I don't know if it has that, so we'll toss it over there. I've got another tensioner, belts, pulley, and some belts. I've got a gasket that I can't remember what it is. Intake manifold gasket, exhaust manifold gasket. I think that one's for the water line. That is the dogwheel mount, so I don't need that yet. That's my thermostat and housing. And I've got a couple more mounts under there. So that's stuff we're gonna leave in here, but let's get working with what we've got over here. Our first area that we're gonna tackle, obviously I've gotta put this big accessory bracket here so I can put all my accessories on, is anything kind of in behind here. So we've got our water pump, there's a coolant line and the thermostat that goes here, dipstick tube, oil filter gasket or housing, and the oil cooler. And then we'll just kind of work our way around here, and then I'll get all my accessories and everything on that side. So first things first, I'm going to find all the OEM pieces I am reusing. So next up, we're going to do the water pump. It's been like a month and a half since I took this apart, so I labeled everything. Remember labeling everything? Now I know what hardware actually holds this to this. So there is a little bit of overspray there, so we'll clean that up quick, and then we'll pop our brand new water pump in. So next up, I'm going to put the thermostat housing in that goes here, and then we can start reattaching this oil cooler that goes here. So I still have the old thermostat housing on this just so I remember the orientation. Finding this clip was actually really hard. It didn't even show up in the OEM parts catalog. So I ordered the same one for the coolant temp sensor. Jeremy at Volkswagen Moncton said that should be the one, so that's what we're gonna do. But as you can see, this one is old and brittle and broke, so that kind of slides in there. And then you've got a metal pipe that runs out of here, and then your thermostat's here. So I'm gonna grab the new one of these, we'll take it off of this and put it in. I just gave this a good tap with a hammer and it seated all the way, so yeah, kind of annoying. Next thing we're gonna do is put this oil cooler back on. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna put that back on. Gonna clean this because it's still leaking oil. And then basically you can see the see? Still got oil and coolant in it. I've drained this thing like 3 times tonight. Stuff's still coming out of this thing. Anyway, so it goes in this orientation. As you can see, this versus the old thermostat housing. So we'll whip this old one off and attach it to the new one. So let's do that. So next up is this coolant line that I've cleaned multiple times and will not become new. But I'm not paying the $98 from the dealer for that hose. So it's underneath the intake manifold. You really won't see it. So we're gonna put this together. This runs around and actually goes kind of to the front of the engine, actually the firewall, if I do believe. So this kind of goes and it connects right into that. So let's set you up and we'll install this thing. I'm actually gonna install this. I'm pretty sure this piece bolts to the piece that's there, so can't really remember, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that on first. All right, so we got our bracket bolted on. I did spring for some new hardware. This hardware was not available from the dealer, so I had to take it to a hardware shop, get them to match everything up. 4 to 5, they were able to get me like one of these with a washer or with a Allen, so it kind of looks OEM, but that one they had to just give me a standard bolt for. So yeah, that's all on. Next, I'm gonna put the dipstick tube in before I forget, because it's in a really awkward place to put it in later. So we're gonna put our dipstick tube in now. All right, dipstick tube is on. So let's start bolting some accessories up. All right, so the next big system we've got to work on now is the belts. We've got all of our accessories on. So time to put the crank pulley on, and then I'm gonna throw the tensioners on, and we're gonna put the belts on. I took a picture somewhere of what the belt routing system looks like, so I gotta pull that up, so you probably won't see me put it on, but you'll see it once it's done. Let's get to it. All right, so we got our belt system all on. Everything is rotating properly, so done that, one system down. All right, so we are back. It's the next night. Leafs game in the background, go Leafs go. We are working on putting the engine back together, so I'll show you kind of where I left off and where we're at right now. Okay, so I've got basically the back side, the exhaust manifold ready to go on. Got the vacuum pump and everything back on. All my cooling system pretty much is on. Intake manifold is over there, getting cleaned. It actually looks clean finally. So the next step is I'm probably gonna throw the exhaust manifold on next, just because I have it sitting here. And I've got all new, brand new OEM hardware. So I'll set you up and we'll toss that on. All right, there we go, first mock-up with the manifold on. Starting to look like something again, so gonna go ahead and get the rest of the exhaust manifold bolts on and torque them down. All right, so fun fact, when you're putting all your cooling system back together, make sure that this line right here goes on before you put this accessory bracket on. Just ask me how I found out. So I did get it in there, but it was a pain in the ass, so this line before all of this stuff. All right, quick little check-in. Got all the evap stuff on the back on. Coolant line, EGR. What else have we got back on here? pretty much that's it, I think, since the last check-in. Dipstick is in, but it doesn't fit all the way in because there's like a little ridge. I don't know if you can see it. Little ridge on the inside. And this doesn't pass, so that's kind of weird. So I don't know if I need to get an aftermarket dipstick to match the aftermarket dipstick tube. But I guess we'll get one of those. Yeah, so there's a lot of these lines and stuff that I just had laying over in my 2.5 graveyard, which has been mostly cleaned up. But I forgot where most of the stuff went, honestly. So, again, these bags that I labeled, coolant hard line, back of head. I actually did not even remember what this line was for. So I read my bolts because I noticed that there was 2 bolts missing there. That's what it's for, so glad I did that. Next thing up, I'm gonna try and clean these up. Like these lines, I've scrubbed, I've heated, I've done everything, and they just won't come new. So I'm gonna try and make those look as good as new, because I think they run underneath the intake manifold. I can't really remember. So next is to put that on. So let's get everything sorted here before that goes on. All right, so I got my intake manifold here on the bench. I'm just changing these gaskets. Got a brand new set right here. Nice and soft and new. And here's the gross, hard, old, dirty ones. So these can go in the bin. And we'll get these ones in after a quick little cleanup in there because still pretty gross. Okay, so we got our intake manifold placed in here. If you remember getting this out, Volkswagen makes some sort of special tool that goes through here to get to the bottom bolt that's down there on both of these. And I didn't, I just kind of went from the bottom. Well, I got all the accessories on this time, so not sure how well that's gonna work. But the factory bolts are super crusty and old. And they look like this little plastic insert. These are discontinued from Volkswagen, and I didn't want to put these on because A, they're gross, and B, some of them came off really harsh. So I went to a store and got the newer equivalent of it. So I'm just going to take all the plastic sleeves off them and put them onto the new ones before I put them on. So let's get you set up and we'll get this put on. All right, so now that that's on, I have to put throttle body on, which is over here drying. It is still wet. So I painted that like 5 or 6 hours ago, but it's still pretty tacky. So we're gonna let that sit for a while. I am able to put that on even with it in the car. Not that this is gonna be in the car by the time that dries, but I can do that. I'm gonna pull the sleeve off and put the starter in while I'm right here. And then I'm also gonna throw on the valve cover. I think I'm gonna do the valve cover next. So let's do that. All right, so we got the new valve cover all installed, and pretty much a complete engine now. Like I said, I gotta clean these up somehow. I really don't know what I'm gonna do in there. Either, I can't remember if these ones were discontinued or really expensive. I can't remember, so yeah. Here's what she looks like. All right, so that's where we're gonna leave off for tonight. Engines together, assembled. Next video, finally, I've actually been really excited for this. We're tearing out the 2-point slow. I held off on tearing it out because I didn't want to like have a bunch of open lines and there's dirt flying around, and I didn't want to get ahead of myself, pull this engine out, and then for some reason not be able to put the new engine in. So now that we're there, we can pull this 2-point slow out. It is currently March 23rd, 22nd, that weekend. I don't know when you're watching this, depends how fast I'm editing. But there is a show that I'm trying to have this car done for. The show starts April 25th. Car needs to be loaded in April 24th. So I've got 1 month to get this 2-point slow out, the 07K 5-cylinder in, and have it running and driving and just be perfect. I've still got a couple things I got to do suspension-wise to this car, and there's a couple more things like my wheels that are sitting back here that I need to refresh a little bit. So there's still a lot of stuff left to be done before then. So my goal is to have it done for around, I would like to say the 14th. Give myself like a 10-day grace period. That way I get the car detailed and make sure everything's 100%. So again, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. You know the drill. Keeps me motivated, keeps me doing these things. So yeah, see you later.